Welcome to Tradier's Rundown. I'm Jim Uriel. That's Bob Iacino. We are the host of Tradier's, the Trader's Edge, that will be live at 3 o'clock on Wednesdays at 3 o'clock Chicago time, 4 o'clock Eastern time. Today, we're going to talk about Bitcoin. We are about a week away from the launch of the much anticipated Bitcoin ETF that seemed to be the primary driver of driving Bitcoin prices up about 190% in 2023. Bobby, what happened after that?
Well, it's interesting because in the rundown, they describe how the Bitcoin ETF has been falling after the approval, which is like a typical sell the fact thing, right? If you've been around as long as us, you've heard the old sort of trading cliche that you buy the rumor, sell the fact. That 190% you talked about was buying the rumor of an ETF approval. And now we're getting the selling the fact of that ETF approval. So in the rundown, they compare it to the launch of the GLD ETF in 2004. It's actually November of 2004. And the interesting thing is, if you look back to that GLD launch from November 2004, let's just look at a 2-year period to November 2006. Gold rose about 44.06%. Now I'm using the futures, the gold futures as a guide, right? So you could say, wow, the GLD ETF did help, right? But if you go back, let's go backwards 2 years instead of forward 2 years, right? And you look at the period from, say, 2002 to 2004, gold rose 44.26%. So how much of the rise after the approval of the GLD ETF was actually the anticipation of it, and how much of it was actually just a fundamental drive in the increase in the price of gold? Now, if you go back 2 years again instead of forward, go to November 2001 to 2003. Talking about a 47.8% increase in gold. So I think what the ETF did over time, because obviously if you move forward past like 2006, 2007, it was a massive rally in gold. What I think it did is it opened people's eyes to gold as an investment because of the publicity that the ETF was now getting, sort of the mainstream financial media. And I think this may do the same for Bitcoin. Rather than necessarily increase the availability to invest directly in Bitcoin, it's opening people's eyes to what this particular asset can be. And by the way, for people who are sort of advocates of Bitcoin, and I'm stealing this from somebody else, and I wish I could credit him or her, but I can't remember who I'm stealing it from. Bitcoin people need to stop talking about the technology and start talking about the adaptability and the opportunities that it gives and where can it be actually used. By the way, the immediate announcement of the GLD ETF, November 2004, gold was down over the next 2 months by over 6%. So it's kind of playing out the exact same way.
Okay, but so is it a fair comparison to go 2024 and 2004? Asking because, back then, I mean, I was vaguely aware of the gold ETF being launched, and I'm in the finance business. This is now everything seems so much more white hot in the more information age, and everyone's talking about it, and you get bombarded with it. So is it a fair comparison to compare 20 years apart?
I don't think it's a fair comparison because actually, as you mentioned, things are there's hyper information going on right now, right? It just all comes out and spreads all over in social media prior to it spreading over news. You and I being involved since the early 90s in markets, there was a gold future. Remember, the gold pit back in the day was the biggest pit. So gold wasn't a new thing to us. Now, Bitcoin's been kind of a new thing to everybody. And I think that there's still, again, if they stop talking about the technology and start demonstrating the utility, it's going to go mainstream a lot faster. And then, of course, the thing you and I have talked about a lot, if it becomes a big asset, does the government allow it to exist any longer?
Okay, so just the last question can be a short answer. A year from now, a year and a half from now, are you a believer in Bitcoin? Do you think the price will be higher or lower?
I'd say a year from now, it's higher.
I do too. Thanks. This has been Tradier's Rundown. Remember to catch us at 3 p.m. Central Time on Tradier's, the Trader's Edge. I'm Jim Uriel. That's Bob Iacino.